1874
Preview Show.
Hello, welcome to another 1874 preview show. Villa playing Everton at 2 o'clock on Sunday. So David Reid and myself are here to preview it. This show is sponsored by Luke Roper. So if you use the code TVV20, you need to get that code changed, you'll get 20% off everything that Luke Roper have to offer. So do go and treat yourself if you do fancy buying yourself some new Clubber cardigans. Not available, I don't think. David Reid, what an outrageous cardigan that was on Monday.
It's taking you 25 seconds to bring up the cardigan. Thank you.
Honestly, one of my favourite things I've ever seen on Sky when I turned on and saw you in that cardigan.
And as I said, I've worked at Sky more than 10 years, and the most times people have come up to me to talk to me about something in the office was about the cardigan. Don't know what that says, but it says something.
Making a splash, we did say about the obviously we've had a rebrand here on 1874. Dave Reid rebranding himself.
It's just me. It's just me.
He's just you now. He likes cardigans. He wears cardigans. Right then, Everton on Sunday. I have enough cardigan chat. How are you feeling leading up to the game?
How am I feeling? I think I'm just about over what happened last weekend. It took me a couple of days. It was kind of the there was the shock. There was the numbness after the defeat. But no, yeah, it wasn't a pretty afternoon, was it? It wasn't a pretty afternoon. So I think that the more time has gone after the result, I'm kind of of the feeling that, you know, it was one game. There's no need to chuck everything out and start again. It's just one game. And the Premier League's a funny one because there's quite a lot of extreme score lines. I was thinking back to last season. Lots of extreme score lines. I think a lot of clubs are kind of quite wedded to the way they play, and even when things start to go wrong, they stick to their principles, even when sometimes the easiest thing to do would be to chuck it out midway through the game and revert to something else and go back to kind of maybe defending in our case last week. But it was a kind of one of those games where you stuck to our usual principles and things just didn't quite pay off last weekend. But now I'm feeling more optimistic ahead of this weekend.
I think it's a nice fixture to have off the back of a heavy defence. I was quite buoyed by what Sir Alex Ferguson said. I don't know whether you saw it. He basically picked Villa out as the performance of the weekend, saying how unfortunate we were to lose 5-1 and that he thought we looked really good. And Sir Alex knows football, so that was encouraging. I think that encouraged me. But like I said, I think once you've had a tough start in a away game, you've been pumped. Everton at home, possibly one of the top 3 or 4 fixtures you'd probably choose to have. I would say no easy games in the Premier League.
Come on.
Villa
you were talking last week about cursing Tyrone Mings, and now you're saying this week that Everton at home's a great fixture.
If you were to pick 3 games or 4 games that you could possibly have right now, I think Everton would be in that conversation. Lost on the first day of the season at home to Fulham. Doesn't look like they were bad by all accounts. I didn't see the whole game, but I saw the highlights and thought they looked quite bright in some of the stuff they did. But overall, you know, they've lost at home. Everton fans are very down. Villa have got a good record against Everton at home. I remember us winning a few first home games in recent years against Everton. The Wesley night on our return to the Premier League last season, we won 2-1. So we've got a good record against Everton at home, especially when it's early doors in the season. And it feels to me, I just think it's a good one to have. I'm not saying we're going to win, but if you could handpick fixtures, I think it would be up there.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. Yeah, I think, and yes, I probably would agree that Everton at home, after an opening day defeat for them, is probably a good fixture to have. I don't think last week, I mean, going back to what Sir Alex Ferguson was saying, I don't think last week was a 5-1 game. I've said this to a few people, and obviously, you know, after the full-time whistle, the WhatsApp blew up, and you know, all the chat was that about how bad things were. But really and honestly, I mean, a couple of people were saying to me that, you know, they were really disappointed in the midfield, but I actually thought the midfield did okay for parts of the game, and they were pretty decent. And then as soon as things started to go awry, there was a bit of a mini collapse in there. I don't think it was all bad by any stretch of the imagination. There were good things in there. And there are positives to take going into this weekend.
Yeah, at the time of recording, obviously we would have till tomorrow midday if we did sign someone new for them to be available. But Zaniolo, we're not really sure what's happening with that at the moment. It does seem like we're signing a left back in Acuna, who played for Sevilla last night against Man City. I think he got an assist as well, actually, if my memory serves me correctly. Yeah, it was him who put the cross in. So maybe the off chance we might have a new signing in for that game into the match day squad if one of those deals could get through before midday tomorrow.
Yeah, possibly. So it's always the last working day, midday, the last working day before your game. So it'd be for the tomorrow night's game. It's the Thursday deadline, but for us it'll be the day after. So it'll be Friday for the Sunday game, Friday midday. I think
the time I said 3 times, I thought you were going to correct me, and then you just went the long way around of just saying the same thing that I said.
Yeah. So Friday midday. I think if Zaniolo is confirmed, I think he will be a part of the match day squad, unless he's nursing something. Yeah. I mean, the Acuna one, there's interest there, definitely. I think if that's going to get done, I think it will accelerate. I mean, I saw some quotes in the Spanish press after last night. They seemed a little bit unhappy with the situation around Acuna. So I think if that's going to happen, I think it'll accelerate in the next 24, 48 hours.
Left back needed, do you think?
Well, it depends on outgoings, doesn't it? If Acuna comes in, there's no other option in my mind than Luca Digne leaving. So lots of chat around him going to Saudi Arabia. If that happens, then yeah, probably another left back is needed given Moreno's injury. So I think if Acuna is happening, I think it would confirm the end of Luca Digne as an Aston Villa player.
Yeah, it looks quite nasty. I feel like we need a little bit of nastiness in the team. I still don't think, as much as we've improved in a multitude of areas, I still think we're quite a nice team, except for Emi Martinez. So it'd be good to get another nasty character into the team. But we'll see what happens with those over the last couple of days. I don't think too many Villa fans would be complaining at Luca Digne going to Saudi and Villa getting a fair chunk of money and getting wages off the bill and then replacing him with a World Cup winner. I think most Villa fans would be pretty happy with that, I would think. But we'll see what happens over the coming days with transfers. Villa are definitely going to be getting in 2 or 3 players by the end of this window. I think we can definitely say that now. We can see that Monchi is starting to put his stamp on, or trying to put his stamp on the squad a little bit. What do we do on Sunday, Dave? Do we change things? Obviously, the obvious Tyrone Mings won't be playing. Shouts for Philogene perhaps to come in for Leon Bailey or Coutinho even. Perhaps how do we change things up, or how do you think Unai Emery will change things up?
I think that there will be changes in defence. The obvious one is Tyrone Mings. I think actually Diego Carlos will probably come in.
You think?
And Pau Torres will move to left back. That would be my suggestion. And Cash will start at right back, and he'll go Cash, Konsa, Carlos, and Pau Torres. I just think Everton, they had less than 50% possession. I think it was 46, I think, against Fulham last week. That was at home. I would expect us to dominate the ball. And I think Pau Torres would bring us an element of control when it comes to build-up. So, yeah, I think that would be my pick. In terms of midfield, I can't see Leon Bailey starting. It's a tough one for him because another 45 minutes and he's been hauled off at half-time. So, I guess his morale isn't probably going to be very high at the moment. I think we'll find out tomorrow, team news, but I don't think there's an injury there for Leon Bailey. So for me, he drops out of the side and probably Philogene comes in. That would be my pick. And then the rest would be the same. I think Philogene would start from the left-hand side. McGinn go back over to the right because I just think he perhaps got it wrong last week in playing McGinn and starting McGinn on the left-hand side. It didn't suit him. He hardly had a kick the whole game, really. I think it would be better for him to revert over to the right-hand side on Sunday, and he plays there. And then it's Luis, Kamara, Philogene, and then Diaby and Watkins.
For the first time ever when we've been doing these previews, I think I absolutely agree with everything that you've said. Dave Reid, no disagreements from me on the team front. I think the other thing with playing Pau Torres at left back and having Carlos in, Everton are obviously one of the bigger teams in the league, rely a lot on set pieces and direct football under Sean Dyche. Nothing wrong with that. That's just how Sean Dyche teams play. I'm not being disrespectful. That is how Sean Dyche operates. I think having that extra height, I wouldn't want to see a Luca Digne, for example, ball watching at the back post as someone steamrolls in like I did against Newcastle on Saturday. I'd rather have those three, and I feel like that will help with the build-up play from the back, because one of the things we do lose without Mings is the building up from the back. He's so good on the ball. I think he's so underrated in a couple of areas in the UK game. I think people realise how good he is. His passing, his pace. We lose so much by him. His leadership. We lose so much by him not being in the team. Having Pau Torres from left back and kind of making that back three and enabling Cash to bomb forward, I just feel that will help us with the build up. I suppose there's a shout that Tillemans could come in as well, although I wouldn't really want to see him playing on the left ever again, I don't think.
I just feel like the midfield for me have earned the right to have another go at it. I don't think there's kind of that much need to change the three of McGinn, Louise, and Kamara. Yeah, you're right. I think for me, obviously Tyrone Mings, that what he would bring against Everton is that real physicality. You know, Konsa is the kind of sweep up behind centre back, and Tyrone Mings is the aggressive front foot in headers, aerial dual centre half for us. I think Carlos is probably the most like for that in terms of his physical presence and his ability to win balls in the air. I think Pau Torres just brings that. You talk about Luca Dean ball watching. I think Pau Torres probably just brings that defensive mindedness for set pieces. I know there's a lot of chat around his physicality, but I think he probably just brings that awareness defensively against Everton. And yes, they are a big team. When you think about Tarkowski, you think about Onana, you think about Doucouré, they've got big players. Set pieces are going to be key for them. And I think, having Torres, Carlos and Konsa at the back is probably going to be the way to go. And I'm just interested to see how Diego Carlos is going to get on, because we haven't really seen much of him. And, it's up to him now to take his opportunity. He'll be desperate to get back after that, such a long-term injury. So it's down to him now to take his opportunity.
And if we were looking for a morale boost whilst doing this video, Sai AVFC has not given us the morale boost. Sorry, Dan, I'll watch tomorrow. Had a long day and nodding off. You don't want to hear the people have fallen asleep.
My chat.
I don't think he's aimed specifically. He does say sorry, Dan, actually, so it might be aimed at me, in fairness, rather than you. But you don't want to say that when you're doing a show. That's for absolute sure. Master P coming in with the kind of ITK gossip that we like to hear here as well. He says, saw Carlos in Fazenda last night. I don't know what Fazenda is, and he said he was redder. So these are the kind of things we like to hear. A bit like, my missus' hairdresser said this. It's a bit like that. But Master P, if you're watching our channel, I'm going to choose to believe what you're saying. Can you please let me know in the chat what Fazenda is, please? Is this somewhere I should be checking out in Birmingham? And if Dave Reed ever comes,
there you go. It's an Argentinian restaurant, mate. Colmore Row.
I'm veggie, so that's no good for me, is it? I won't be eating very much there. As I said, if Dave Reed's ever in town, never comes to the Midlands anymore. Dave Reed, proper London boy now in his cardigan. He doesn't ever make his way to Birmingham.
I was in your hometown last week.
You were at a wedding, there, Dave. I didn't see you. It was no good to me at all. You being there. I'm gonna steal a point now. One of my friends came around last night. We watched the Manchester City game, and we were talking about Villa and talking about the centre back situation. And I thought he made a really good point. Kind of saying that, like, obviously, you just mentioned it then as well, which was what made me think of it. Konsa and Mings. Mings is obviously more of the aggressor, and Konsa's the one who kind of sweeps up and doesn't get his shorts as dirty, for want of a better phrase. So it kind of feels like Pau Torres is that type of centre back as well. So maybe playing Torres and Konsa at the same time. They're both kind of trying to do the same things, more of a drop off sweeper centre half, whereas Carlos is the Mings type. So I think maybe you might be right with them two playing together. It's just the other day, obviously against Newcastle, when he made the sub, he didn't bring Carlos on. He brought Pau Torres on. Would you go along with what I'm saying about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. As kind of what I said. I mean, I feel like Carlos is more a more similar profile to Tyrone Mings as a centre back. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Last week he decided to bring on Pau Torres. Maybe he was just looking for that balance at the back at that point. Maybe he was trying to get back some control of the game, because maybe we were trying to lose some control, losing control of the game at that point. So maybe he thought Pau Torres' on-ball ability, we were behind, maybe he just wanted to bring a little bit more control to the game with Torres coming on at that point. That would be my only thing.
Yeah. Rocks, I've lost it to the chat. Someone else just added to the chat. Roxamon has said Acuna offer has been rejected. Apparently, how much is he worth? Goes against what I have heard today about the offer being rejected.
I haven't heard about an offer.
You haven't even. Oh God, we've got all kinds of different stories going on here. All kinds of different tales. I heard the offer has been accepted and terms have been agreed, and it's just medical. But to be fair, that was this morning, and I would have expected to have heard something by now if that was the case. Levi Eddie Aluadi says at the moment Acuna is definitely better than Dean. Won the World Cup and the Europa League in the last year alone. And then he says not great, but hardworking. It's a bit of a contradictory
backhanded compliment.
Yeah, I was really enjoying reading it, and then at the end he's throwing a bit of a negative from nowhere. Bashik is mentioning, I presume he's mentioning Courtney House there. Housing time.
I saw he put something on his Instagram saying he was waiting for the call.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I feel sorry for Courtney Hall.
Oh, he's had a horrible time.
A bad year, not through any fault of his own, and a lot of it actually not Villa's fault.
Yeah.
Either Watford messed him around an awful lot, but I've not heard anything about him being part of the first team plans. There's obviously still a few players who are technically owned by the club. Keenan Davis is still a Villa player at the moment as well, isn't he? So there's a few still potentially to move on. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with the centre backs. It's one they've got to make. You've got to make the right call on, because when you've shipped 5, last thing you want is get that wrong and concede an early goal straight off the bat. At home. So it will be interesting to see what he lines up with. Everton, we know, are a completely different team when Dominic Calvert-Lewin plays. It appears he's played in a behind closed doors friendly on Tuesday, I think it was, against Manchester United. So should be ready for this game. Danjuma, linked with our club in the past as well, didn't start the game at the weekend, but came on. So every chance we could see a couple of Everton changes in attack, freshen that attack up.
Yeah, I just wonder whether, Mope had a bit of a horrible time of it last week, missed an awful lot of chances. I just wonder whether he goes Danjuma against Villa on Sunday, just because he maybe thinks that he's maybe a better player in transition than Neil Mope. So maybe Danjuma can offer a little bit of pace in behind if they're trying to hit Villa on the break. So I just think with Dominic Calvert-Lewin, he's played in this behind closed doors friendly, but I just think it's got to be no risk situation with Everton, because he's had so many issues and he's so important for Everton, and he's their probably only real, well, he's their only natural goal scorer in that squad until we see this Chamiti, see whether he's going to be the one to step in, but he's very raw. So even if Dominic Calvert-Lewin has played in this behind closed doors friendly, I just can't see him starting. I think he might make the bench, and it could be a kind of last 20 minutes, last 15 minutes, depending on the game state. But Everton's problem has always been scoring goals. They've just not been very good in front of goal. And when they're without Dominic Calvert-Lewin, their record's terrible. So I think maybe Danjuma will come in for Mope on Sunday. That would be my inkling for what Sean Dyche might do.
I guess if anyone knows Danjuma, it's Unai Emery. So if he does play, you think Unai might know how to shackle him. A few people talking about transfer replacements for Mings. Laporte is off to Saudi, so we won't be going in for him. He's got a Saudi move lined up, but I just don't think the club will be. You won't see the club drop another £30 million on a centre back. Absolutely not. After buying Pau Torres in the summer, they've still got 4 centre halves as well. And then King 81, that's one of the most ambitious things I've ever heard in my life. Could we offer De Gea a deal, which sees him become our second goalkeeper for cups in Europe? Not for the kind of money David De Gea is going to want. Would be my suggestion. I'm not sure he'd come to Villa as a number 2 either, David De Gea. Although there is some keeper stuff going on at the moment. Bayern Munich definitely still need a goalkeeper, and obviously Chelsea are now looking for a goalkeeper as well after shifting Kepa. Not sure if there's anything else we can really discuss, Dave. We don't want to be talking for the sake of it. We've already lost one viewer to falling asleep, so we don't want to lose any more. Do we? Anything else you think that needs talking about ahead of the game?
You mentioned Coutinho there, whether he becomes more involved, and whether he plays midfield or whether he plays in one of the forward positions. And then, I mean, the only other thing really is Ollie Watkins and Moussa Diaby. How do you think that partnership's gonna look going forward? And I'm really excited to see Moussa Diaby at home, so I'm sure all the fans are as well.
I think both are going to score at the weekend. That would be my prediction. That was the plus point. I thought there was a little bit of nice link up between the two of them. I thought Diaby just looked absolutely electric. So I think he's going to be the key man. I think he'll be his first home game. The crowd will be really behind him as well. I'm looking forward to seeing that on Sunday. That'll be the front two. There's no doubt about that. That's going to be Villa's front two for the foreseeable, the main front two that we go for this is. Yeah, looking forward to that. I think Coutinho will get on the pitch at some point. It's just a shame Emi Buendia can't play because he always scores against Everton, doesn't he? He's got a cracking record against Everton, 3 in his last 3. I think he might have against Everton. So it's a shame that he's not available, and obviously a shame that there's no Tyrone as well. But yeah, I think that does us, Dave Reid. But excited for the game? Prediction? Give me a prediction.
Excited for the game. I think it's probably going to be 3-1, and Ashley Young is going to score for Everton.
Yes, we didn't talk about that, did we?
And he's not going to celebrate. He gave an interview this week, actually, and he said he was disappointed with how it ended at Villa, which you can understand. He said he was told a few things, promised a few things, and things didn't quite come to fruition. So he's obviously a little bit miffed about how that ended at Villa, which you can understand because he gave the interview on the pitch at the end of the game saying hopefully he's here next season, and then next day it was all over for him. So I'm sure he'll get a great reception. I can see him scoring as well because he'll be bang up for it.
What's that all about? Don't say that. He won't. Not from left back, surely. I mean, I've cursed a lot of things in the last week. Surely not.
I can see him curling one in from the edge of the box into the top corner.
No, we've got that covered. Everton aren't going to go past the halfway line. They're not going to let him past the halfway line at the mighty Villa Park. I wouldn't have thought. I'm going to go 2-1 to Villa. Similar game to last season. I would say. I do unfortunately think we will concede because I think Everton will cause us problems from direct balls and set pieces. But yeah, 2-1 to Villa. As I said at the top of the show, good record against the Toffees for Villa over the years. One of the most played fixtures, of course, in top flight football as well. So yeah, fingers crossed for a Villa win. Thanks to everyone who watched us, except for Sai AVFC, who fell asleep. Not a fan of that at all during the show. But yeah, we really appreciate you watching. There's 263 of you here at the moment watching live. So thanks for that. And thanks to those that will go on and watch the show as well. We'll do a post-match show at some point, just trying to think when, possibly Sunday night when I get back from the game. I would think try and do it then. And then, of course, 1874 will be back. Well, 1874, the podcast, will be back with Greg and myself at the start of the week as well. If you haven't listened or watched that podcast from earlier on in the week, go back and check that out. Always interesting to see what Greg has to say. And actually, he cheered me up a little bit, which is rare for Greg. So go back and watch that if you haven't done so already. Have an excellent Friday, everyone. Thanks again to Dave, and thanks to Lee as well for producing Up the Villa.